All right, excerpts from The Little Prince, huh? This time you've really thrown us a classic, a real classic. I mean, this philosophical tale told through the eyes of, well, a pilot who's stranded in the desert really gets you thinking about things. And, those big questions you flagged for us, childhood innocence, imagination, and that search for meaning in life, really universal stuff.
And who better to guide us than the little prince himself?
Right.
He leaves his tiny asteroid home and encounters all these characters, this whole cast of characters on different planets, and each one of them, it's like they're a reflection of human nature. So we'll follow his journey, his bond with, that enigmatic Rose, and the wisdom he gets from a certain wise fox.
It all starts with that drawing of the boa constrictor, right?
Yeah.
As a child, the narrator, he draws one that swallowed an elephant, but all the adults, all they see is a hat. It's like they've traded in their imagination for, I don't know, for practicality.
Yeah, it's a really striking contrast. It really sets the stage for that central theme of the book, the importance of seeing things, seeing the world through a childlike perspective, almost like they get so fixated on the literal, they lose the ability to really see the world.
Okay, but is it really about like staying childlike?
Yeah.
Or is it more about holding on to that sense of wonder and curiosity, even as we grow up?
Yeah.
The Little Prince's own home, asteroid B612, it's so small, so tiny, he can't even go very far in a straight line. But yet he finds a whole universe of meaning right there on that little asteroid.
That's a really fascinating point. Maybe it's not so much about rejecting adult responsibilities, but more about approaching them with that same open-minded spirit, like those baobabs, the little prince. He weeds them out so diligently. They're a metaphor, right? A metaphor for those negative thoughts and habits that can take root in our minds.
I get that. But couldn't you say that, well, some rules and structures are necessary? I mean, if we never tamed those metaphorical baobabs, wouldn't we just end up, like, in chaos?
It's a delicate balance, isn't it? He's not saying the little prince, I mean, he's not advocating anarchy or anything like that. He's urging us to examine the things that we just accept as truth and to approach life, I don't know, with a sense of like playful exploration.
And speaking of delicate balances, I mean, we have to talk about the Little Prince's Rose. Beautiful, but demanding and maybe a little vain.
She really throws him for a loop, doesn't she? He's completely captivated by her, by the Rose, but so confused by her behavior. He leaves her behind, but then that separation, it just makes his feelings even stronger. Like he starts to see her, I don't know, through new eyes, and he realizes her unique value. Yeah, that's a powerful realization for sure. And it sets him on a path where he has these encounters with some pretty peculiar characters, like the king, who rules over a planet with no subjects. He really embodies that illusion of authority that we see in the world, obsessed with power, but with no one to command.
It reminds me of, well, some leaders that we see today, clinging to those titles, those positions, but lacking real influence or connection with the people they're supposed to lead.
Precisely. And it raises those questions about, what true leadership really means, doesn't it? And then there's the lamplighter. So dedicated, lighting and extinguishing his lamp every minute, never questioning the purpose, just doing it.
It's almost funny, but also a little sad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is he a symbol of blind obedience or those societal expectations we all have? Or is there something to be said for that kind of dedication to a task, that kind of like unwavering dedication?
I wonder if it's more a commentary on like that human need for purpose, even if that purpose seems, I don't know, arbitrary or even meaningless to other people, meaningless to others. And speaking of seeking knowledge, we can't forget the geographer who maps the whole world, but never actually goes out and experiences it, never leaves his desk.
He's all theory and no practice. It's like those internet experts, who just spout all these opinions and stuff, but they've never really lived it. They've never grappled with the realities of the things they're commenting on.
It is a cautionary tale, isn't it, about the limitations of secondhand knowledge. Maybe the Little Prince, maybe it's suggesting that true understanding, it comes from a synthesis, a blend of knowledge and lived experience, which in a way that's kind of what we're doing right now with this deep dive, right?
Yeah. We can't talk about the Little Prince and not mention the snake.
Yeah.
That mysterious snake. It has the power to send the Little Prince back to his star. But its intentions, they're so ambiguous. Is it trying to help him? Is it a threat? Or is it something else entirely, something in between?
Yeah, it's a symbol shrouded in ambiguity, much like life itself. It embodies the unknown, those forces that are beyond our control that can both, I don't know, both challenge and guide us. And that sense of uncertainty really underscores the Little Prince's experience on that mountain range, that desolate mountain range, where all he hears is his own echo. It's a stark reflection of his loneliness.
And that makes his encounter with the fox even more poignant. You know, the fox teaches him about taming and seeing with the heart, and about how important it is, how important time is, the time you invest in something.
Those lessons, the lessons from the fox, they resonate so deeply. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye, you know? It really challenges us to look beyond how things appear, beyond the surface, and connect with the deeper meaning behind things.
But isn't there like a danger in putting too much emphasis on sentimentality? Like, couldn't that lead to, overlooking flaws or making decisions based on emotion instead of logic?
That's a thought-provoking question. Perhaps the key is finding that balance between the head and the heart, you know what I mean? Integrating both logic and emotion into our decision-making. And the other lesson from the fox about how the time we waste for something makes it important. That speaks to the value of commitment and investing yourself fully in what you choose to tame.
It reminds me of those, I don't know, those relationships or things we pursue that at first we might think they're trivial or whatever, but over time they become really meaningful because of the effort we put in, the care we put in.
Exactly. And speaking of unexpected sources of meaning, that well in the desert becomes a powerful symbol, you know? Not just for physical thirst, but for that deeper yearning for connection, that yearning for purpose.
It's like that hidden treasure from the narrator's childhood, from his memory as a child. The search itself, the effort, the anticipation, they all make the discovery even more valuable when it finally happens.
Yeah.
And remember how they describe the water, how it tastes like music. It's almost as if, I don't know, it's almost as if the journey, the sounds of the pulley, the starlight, they all blend together in that perfect moment, that moment of shared joy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful illustration of how meaning is often found in the process, you know, not just in reaching the destination. And speaking of shared joy, the Little Prince's gift of laughter to the pilot and that image of making the stars laugh.
It's such a whimsical idea, but it speaks to that transformative power of human connection, you know? The stars, which we usually see as, I don't know, distant and impersonal, they become a source of joy, of shared memory because of the Little Prince. It's as if he's imbued them with this new layer of meaning specific to their relationship.
And that leads us so beautifully into the ambiguity of the Little Prince's departure. We're left wondering about his fate and what happens to his rose and how did he even get to Earth in the first place? I mean, we don't know. But before we dive into all of that, there are some other fascinating encounters from the Little Prince's journey that we should explore.
We were just talking about, well, how the Little Prince, how his departure just leaves us with so many questions. But before we get to all that, there are a few more of his encounters that we should unpack, like starting with that businessman, the one?
Yeah.
So obsessed with counting the stars.
Oh, yes, the businessman. He represents that human drive to acquire things, to always want more and more, even if it's something like stars, something you can't really own.
It's like he's trying to possess something that can't be possessed. He says they'll make him rich, the stars. He doesn't even seem to appreciate their beauty or anything, or the sense of awe that they inspire.
It reminds me of, like, I don't know, those corporations that try to patent genetic sequences and things like that, or claim ownership of natural resources. It's kind of, I don't know, like spiritual blindness, a failure to recognize the real value of things beyond just how much money they can make you.
So is the Little Prince, is it saying that all forms of ownership are bad? Or is it more about, drawing a line between like responsible stewardship and just taking advantage and acquiring things just to have them?
That's a really nuanced question. Maybe it's more about recognizing that real wealth, true wealth, it lies in experiences and connections, not in just piling up possessions just for the sake of having them. Which brings us to the railway switchman. He sees all these travelers, rushing by, always searching for something more, never seeming to find contentment.
It's a pretty poignant observation about being human, isn't it? Always striving, always yearning for something. But often missing the beauty and the joy of right now, of the present moment.
And in the middle of all that restless movement, it's the children who stand out. They press their noses against the train windows, and they're just full of wonder and curiosity, you know. The switchman, he says that only children really know what they're looking for.
I find that both, I don't know, hopeful and kind of heartbreaking at the same time.
Mm.
Hopeful because, well, it suggests that we're all born with that sense of wonder,
Hmm.
that innate sense of wonder. But heartbreaking because it kind of implies that we lose it somewhere along the way.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe the little prince's journey. Maybe it's a reminder for us to try and recapture that childlike spirit, to approach life with fresh eyes, you know, even as we're dealing with all the complexities of being an adult. And speaking of approaching things differently, we have to talk about the merchant, the one selling those pills, the pills to quench your thirst.
Those pills, they really baffled the little prince, didn't they? Why would you want to get rid of a basic need like drinking water? Especially when it can be, such a source of pleasure, such a sensory experience.
It's such a brilliant satire of our obsession with
Mm.
efficiency and instant gratification.
Right.
You know, we're so used to shortcuts now, we've forgotten the value of just slowing down
Mm.
and savoring the simple things. Imagine a world where we just pop pills instead of enjoying a meal,
Right.
or take a virtual tour instead of actually traveling to a new place.
It's almost dystopian, isn't it? But it's not that far off from how some people live today. We order food online instead of cooking, and we consume entertainment in these little bite-sized chunks.
Hmm.
And we rely on technology for almost all of our experiences.
It really makes you think, you know, like at what point does convenience just become a barrier to really experiencing life? And this theme of valuing experience over convenience, it takes us back to the pilot and his search for water in the desert. I mean, he's literally dying of thirst. But the little prince, he keeps talking about his friend the fox.
The timing is it's kind of funny, but also really profound. It shows how differently we perceive things, how we prioritize things. The little prince, he's still thinking about the fox's lessons. He sees the world through a different lens than the pilot, who's desperate for water.
And yet, even though they're coming from these completely different perspectives, they still find the well together. It's like a reminder that even when it seems like we're not on the same page, we can still find common ground and support each other through the tough times.
And that, well, it becomes more than just, a place to get water. It represents that deeper search, the search for meaning, the search for connection that we all go through. And remember how they describe the water, how it tastes like music. It almost like, I don't know, like all that effort and the sound of the pulley and that beautiful starry sky. It's like it all comes together to make that water, make it taste like magic.
It speaks to the power of sharing an experience, you know, and finding joy in the simple things, and how meaning is often created together through our interactions with others and with the world around us. And then we have that bittersweet parting.
The little prince, he knows he has to go back to his own planet, but we never find out how he got to Earth in the first place. It's another one of those mysteries, those little mysteries that Saint Exupéry leaves for us to think about.
It adds to the mystery of the story, you know. It's like the little prince, he almost seems like a dream, you know, a fleeting but profound encounter that changes the pilot's whole perspective. And before he leaves, he asks the pilot to draw a muzzle for his sheep.
Which is, well, it's a powerful symbol of responsibility, isn't it? He's
Wow.
entrusting the pilot with his rose, with her well-being.
Mm.
But then he forgets to ask for a strap for the muzzle. It's such a childlike thing to do,
Yeah.
and it creates this lingering tension.
We're left wondering, did the sheep eat the rose? Is the little prince happy? It's a reminder that life is full of uncertainty, and that even when we plan things carefully, they can still go wrong. But even with that unresolved tension, there's a sense of hope in that last scene.
That image of the stars laughing, it's so evocative. It suggests that even though there's sadness in parting, there's also a kind of, I don't know, like a cosmic joy that connects us all.
The little prince, he says that the stars, they mean different things to different people. For some, they're guides, you know. For others, they're just lights far away. But for the pilot, they become a source of comfort and a reminder of his bond with the little prince.
It's like the little prince has given the pilot a new way of seeing things. A new way of seeing the world. Even those faraway stars, he's given them personal meaning. And isn't that one of the best things someone can give you? A new perspective, a deeper understanding, a way to find beauty and meaning in the everyday things.
Absolutely. And that brings us to, well, to the last lesson, the most important lesson the Little Prince gives us.
We've talked about, I don't know, so many things, so many layers of meaning in The Little Prince. But it's that last part, that last message about remembering that really stays with me.
Yeah, the idea that, well, that a person's essence, the connection you make with them, that it can live on in your memory, even after they're gone, physically gone. I mean, it's really powerful stuff.
Exactly. The Little Prince, he tells the pilot, it will be as it was when we drank the water. He's not just talking about the stars. He's talking about holding on to that feeling, that shared moment of joy, even when you're apart.
And that's where that water metaphor, that's where it all comes together. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
water from the well, it represents that deeper search, that search for meaning. It becomes almost, I don't know, almost sacred, like a holy thing. It's not just about quenching your thirst. It's about the experience,
Yeah.
sharing that experience, the effort it took to find the well, how the water tasted under the desert sky, all of that, it becomes part of the memory.
It makes me think about how we forget sometimes, how we take those little moments for granted. Those simple, beautiful moments, like watching a sunset or having a conversation with someone you love, or even just enjoying a good cup of coffee. We're always so busy rushing to the next thing that we forget to just savor the moment, to be
Yeah.
in the present.
The Little Prince, he really seems to live completely in the present, doesn't he? He's totally engaged with every encounter, every experience. He notices every little detail, like the sound of the wind in the wheat fields, or how the petals on his rose unfold.
Yeah. Maybe that's part of what makes him so wise. He's not dwelling on the past and he's not worried about the future. He's just present in each moment.
And because he's so present, he's able to really connect with people, and with the world around him. He makes these deep connections, these bonds, even with the characters who seem so different from him.
It's like his openness and his curiosity. They allow him to see past those differences, and recognize that they're all connected, that shared humanity. He doesn't judge, he doesn't dismiss people, even the businessman who's obsessed with counting stars, or the rose who's so conceited and demanding.
And maybe that's the real lesson of The Little Prince. Maybe it's a call for us to cultivate that same childlike sense of wonder, that openness, to approach the world with curiosity instead of judgment, and to find joy, to find meaning in the simple things.
It's a reminder that the most valuable things in life, they're not really things at all, are they? They're those qualities,
Oh,
love, connection, kindness, laughter, and that ability to see the world, to see it all with fresh eyes.
yeah, it's a reminder to cherish those little moments, those fleeting moments that make up a life, to pay attention to all the beauty that surrounds us, and to hold on to the memories that bring us joy.
I think that's why The Little Prince, it's such a timeless story.
Yeah.
It's loved all over the world. It speaks to something deep inside of us, that longing for connection, that desire for meaning, and that yearning for that sense of wonder, that childlike sense of wonder that maybe we've lost along the way.
It's a book you can read over and over again throughout your life, and every time it reveals new things, new layers of meaning, new
Yeah.
insights.
So as you go on your own journey, I hope you'll remember The Little Prince and the wisdom he shared. Keep your eyes open. Be aware of all the beauty and wonder around you. Cherish the connections you make. And never forget the power of laughter and how important it is to look up at the stars with a heart full of joy.